Okay, good evening. Welcome to Last Bell Boxing. Tonight we've got Ian Burbedge with us, who's kindly agreed to take a little bit of time out of his day to give us a chat about all things boxing. So welcome, Ian. Thank you very much for taking the time out.
No, thanks for having me, mate.
No problem. Firstly, what a great career you've had, Ian. I've been doing a little bit of homework today, and you've had quite an eventful trip in boxing, haven't you?
Yes, it's been good. It's been, there's obviously downsides as there always is, but the good nights have been good.
Yeah, and you can see from the little titles at the bottom, I put it in claret for you. Because I know you're a big West Ham.
That didn't go unnoticed.
Yeah, you're a big West Ham fan. We'll talk about football a little bit in the later, because you might want to hang this call up when you find out who I support, but that's for a bit later on down the line. So, Ian, best place to start really is at the beginning. So what got you into boxing? How did you come about lacing up the gloves?
As a kid, it all started at the local boys club, and we used to have football training, and one night we couldn't go out and play football, and wanted something to do, and the boxing gym was on, and we got invited in, a couple of us, and fell in love with it straight away, pretty much, really.
Brilliant. So obviously you had quite a few amateur bouts. Best opponent that you've been in with?
God, the names escape me. There was a kid, Henry Jacobs, his name was, and he was a kid that just didn't look like a boxer at all. And when you think this is going to be all right tonight,
yeah, and
you just couldn't get near him, and realised that just weren't good enough. And fortunate enough, I lived just around the corner from Denny and Len Mancini, and they had the shop down the Fulham Palace Road. And I used to go there a lot, and I was invited up to Carnaby Street when the Lonsdale had a gym up there, and that was great. And it was great education, but also makes you realise your limits, sort of thing.
Yeah. So, what type of boxer was you then, Ian? Did you like a war? Was you a sweet science type of boxer?
No, I've always liked the sweet science, and that's what I work at now. To be truthful, I love boxing. I look at boxing as human chess.
Yeah,
and that's the way I've always liked it. I admire the fights where you look at Ben and McClellan of where those guys went to for that fight, but equally, I like to see people like Errol Graham, who was around at the same time, who was just an absolute craftsman.
Yeah. I'm more of a fan of the sweet science. That's why I'm a big fan of Fiore at the minute, because what he does at his size, he shouldn't really be able to do, should he?
No, brilliant. I always say, you can walk down the street and anyone can have a fight, but not everybody can box.
Yeah. Brilliant. So moving on to your training career there, I'd like to touch on the work you did with Lenny Daws. The bit I've done a bit of reading this afternoon. Can you give us your view on your little trip to Italy and some of the shenanigans that were put into play while she was going over there, such as rumoured to have been booked into wrong hotels, and you ended up staying in the hotel and maybe slyly telling Lenny to go to the proper upgraded hotel?
Yeah, what happened was we knew I'd done a lot of digging around from people that had been to Italy previously, and I knew we was going to get mucked about. We knew that things were going to happen, and what happened was they turned up to pick us up. There was about 6 of us in our party. There was Lenny's wife. Mick Elliott came out with us because Mick Elliott had a show going on at the same weekend. And what happened was they pulled up in 2 little Fiat Unos that didn't have an MOT between the 2 of them. So we was crammed into this car. I'd got the booking through for the hotel Brindisi, where we was due to stay. And sure enough, as we're going on, we approached the hotel that looked lovely, and the promoter waved on, sort of like fella went to pull in. He went, no, up here. So we ended up going around, and we ended up staying in these serviced apartments, which was adequate, but Lenny's room had no windows in it. We was all in other little rooms, and kept asking for our passports. And I said to Len, look, there's something wrong here. Tell you what, walk up to the hotel, see if you can book yourself in. And because we had a bit of a dispute about, we've been told we booked into this hotel, bit of an argument. No, it's all full up. There's a wine festival here, and it's all full. So I said, Len, look, go around there, see if you can get in there. And sure enough, he was able to get a room because there was loads in there. But obviously we let them know that he was still staying in the service departments as such. So I went into what was Lenny's room, and then just kept my room empty. And Lenny's brother was out with us. Mickey Elliott was with us, and so we just kept jumping in between the rooms. To be honest with you, but all the time they kept saying, "Where's Mr. Daws? Where's Mr. Daws?" And saying, "Oh, he's just gone out to have a walk, or he's just having a sleep. Oh, we need to see his passport." I went, "Look, you've seen our passports once. What do you need to see our passport for?" And so he was always checking whether he was in there or not. But obviously we sort of kept swerving them, sort of thing, and getting out of the way. And on the afternoon of the fight, I got a few phone calls in the room, got a few drilling sounds downstairs. So, you know, it was all set up to muck us about a little bit, but, you know, we expected it, and it was what it was.
Yeah.
You know, and that sort of thing went through to the venue as well.
A bit like the old cup final days when you used to get a group of fans outside of hotels, you know, playing the loud music till daft o'clock. Yeah,
but we expected that. I mean, we was only allowed to go to one restaurant, and we would literally have a choice of 4 or 5 courses that we could have. We could only go there for breakfast as well. And we went there one day, and they thought that Lenny's brother was Lenny, and his food was really salty. So we sort of went, look, we're not going to eat there no more. And we went and found somewhere else to go and have our food, which they didn't know about. But so we just kept moving about all the time.
I assume, Ian, that was to make him drink more, to make him struggle on the scales. Would that be about right?
Yeah. You know, and look, it's all sort of hearsay, really, Carl. We can say that that's what they did, and they can say, no, we didn't. It was just one of them things. But, you know, it was what it was.
And just moving on to the fight, Ian, what's that orange substance that I read about that they was using in the corner?
Well,
did you ever get to the bottom of that? Allegedly, you'll say.
We did get to the bottom of it to a point, but what happened is Lenny cut DiRocco in the second round, and the referee ruled it a punch, which we was really pleased about. So, and to be honest, we thought, this is it, we're in. You know, we've got a great chance here. Then all of a sudden, the promoter jumps up and starts painting on this liquid, which obviously we didn't see at the time. When we came back, but we realised that, you know, because what happened was there was a social club in the area that was able to pick the fight up on satellite television, and they watched it. But unlike Sky, they repeat stuff. So when we got home, we found out that a repeat was on, and we went down and recorded it on a video camera as they played it at the club. Then we see this yellow stuff, and we then started to push it a little bit. I was getting on Robert Smith's case to sort of do something about it. You know, it shouldn't be. We know it shouldn't be that colour. And then they admitted to using a Vaseline with an anti-infection agent in it. Well, that's now an illegal substance, surely. But it was swept under the carpet, and you know, we can argue and say that all our protests got us the second shot at Nieto, but you know, we would have rather have fought DiRocco over here again, but it's just the way it fell.
I mean, I've watched the fight, and it looks like he was beat before he got in the ring. I would suggest, you know, everything was against him, wasn't it, Ian, for that fight?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing before that is there was an African Italian which was under the same promoter, and he fought Ribras that George Groves beat in a fight. And Ribras battered this geezer for 10 rounds. Absolutely battered him for 10 rounds. The kid come back in the last 2, and they gave it a draw. And the kid, you know, it was taken to hospital, and like Mickey Elliott was there. He come running in, he went, "You're going to have to knock this fella out the wing because you ain't going to get nothing down there tonight."
Right. So you went in knowing then?
Pardon?
You went in knowing then, didn't you? You knew what the score was.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, we went out there knowing.
Yeah. Away fighter and all that.
Yeah, I mean, Lenny scored a knockdown in, I think it was the last round. It might have been the 11th, and it didn't get counted. It just like picked him up, rubbed his gloves down, and carried on. So,
and then just coming on to the, I mean, he had some tough luck, didn't he, Lenny Daws? It's fair to say, you know.
Without a doubt. I mean, you see the Nieto fight, which was clash of heads. They've jumped in the ring, and the referees give it saying he headbutted him.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that because however they done him for an intentional headbutt there, I've watched it a few times and yeah, he had some very bad luck, very bad luck.
Oh, mate, and deserved better. And the worst thing is he's such a proper professional, such an absolute proper professional. I mean, he's still a mate to this day, and you know, I speak to him most weeks, and it just deserved more. He's just deserved more.
Yeah, to quote him, Ian, he's just a quiet kind of guy who likes to do his talking in the ring, isn't there? And maybe that's cost him a few fights down the road. But I know certain promoters want him to sell himself a bit more, you know. But he is who he is, isn't he? And like I say,
that's the thing. That's not Len. I mean, Len sort of we've discussed it many times, Carl. You know, where Lenny sort of said, "I should have called him out. I should have called him out." But I just said to him, "Len, that ain't you, mate." You know, when we fought Shaquille Fadley and he's muttering at him in French, and you know, Lenny ain't moved the muscles, just stared at him and carried on with it, sort of thing. So that's him.
Yeah, but like I say, congratulations to Lenny Daws if he sees this, because what a warrior, and
Brilliant.
he left it all in the ring. So fair play.
But every day, Carl, we left it in the gym.
Yeah,
model professional.
Yeah, you've
never
gone on
struggled with his
record.
weight.
You've gone on record of saying that, haven't you, Ian? That he's a proper model professional, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, brilliant. Never left anything unturned. Always did his runs. Always in the gym on time. Warmed up correctly. Trained correctly. And lived the life properly. I can't praise the man enough for his endeavours. I mean, a little bit of luck, he could have been a world champion, or at least have fought for a world title. But sadly, it didn't fall his way. And as far as I'm concerned, there was no one more deserving of it than him.
Yeah, the quote you gave to Boxing News made me smile, where he said, if I asked Lenny to go and do 400 laps of that car park, he'll go and do 410 to make sure he's put the graft in.
Yeah.
And I thought that sums him up, don't it?
Yeah, challenge him to do anything, and he'll do it.
Yeah. Other boxers then that you've been involved with, Ian, that you like to, any funny stories or?
I mean, listen, I drove Danny Donchev around for years and years. I mean, that was a funny story every time you went out. He was crackers, absolutely crackers. I mean, it was like taking a kid out some days. He was amazing, but a great education because, you know, you go to places like Bedworth Town Hall, you've not got an hour second, or you know, you go anywhere, Liverpool, and as I say, Danny was crackers, but when towards the end, he got a little bit that he didn't want to work as hard. But really, again, he was another one. As mad as he was, he sort of lived the life properly. Never struggled to make his weight. Always made his weight. There was times when his performance was appalling or awful, where he just didn't fancy it that night, and he would go and hang on to the fella. You know, I can remember one fight against Georgie Keane, and it was a fight that I couldn't make, and he fought with a copper box, and he just hung on to Georgie Keane's waist all night. And you know, if you think I had to have a special family occasion that I couldn't let my wife down on, and I think if I'd have been there for that, I don't think I'd still be married now, to be truthful.
Right,
so
fair enough.
Yeah, but he was crackers, Dan, absolutely crackers, and you know, it really was at times like shaking the child out. We had 5 conversations. So before Eddie Muscat, who I know you've spoken to before Eddie come and used to help me out and work with me and Dan would traipse up and down the motorway, Manchester, Liverpool. We've done a lot, but we only ever had 5 conversations that he could have in English, and that was it.
Wow.
And so you knew as soon as the first line started, you think, "Oh, here we go again." And just here we go. So there were some long drives home, believe me.
Yeah, because what is Manchester from your neck of the woods? You're talking a good drive there, aren't you, Ian?
Did you know what, Carl? I never done Manchester on a Friday or a Saturday in less than 6 hours. I used to speak to people up there who come from the same neck of the woods and say to them, "How long did it take you to get out of it?" "Oh, I've done it in about 3.5, 4. And you're thinking, wow, how have you done that? I've come the same way you did, and I'm taking 6. But yeah, it's a slap. And you know, when you get the phone call, I think the worst one was I was in the gym on a Tuesday and got the phone call to say, "Got a fight for Danny Donchev in Leeds on Friday night." And I remember saying to Mickey Elliott, who managed Dan, I said, "Mick, get us on early, will you, please?" And he said, "I've got you on second, but it's a dinner show, so it ain't starting till 9:30.
Wow.
And he just, honest, that's a slap home as well.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So a couple of other names then. Sorry, Ian, go on.
Yeah, but I say a great education. You know, it teaches you a job. And I look at people like, you know, Frank Greaves, Carl Greaves, Johnny Pegg. Used to see them boys all the time out on the road. And for me, it's the right way of learning the job, because, you know, you'll go to a fight and the fella might be a bit stronger than you first thought he was. And you've got to get round it. You've got to adapt. You know, you might not have an hour second. And you've got to get the stall in, you've got to get the cut, and you've got to deal with it, but you've got to remain calm for your fighter. And, you know, it's nice to see the likes of Frank and John and Carl having their day in the sun, because they've done it the right way for me, and you know, they're credit to it. But other boxers, Tony Milch, I worked with. Chaz Simmons. Chaz was my first champion.
Yeah.
Chaz was my first champion, Southern Area champion. Again, Chaz would cut a corner if he could. But the one fight we had where we won the title, we won the Southern Area, because he previously challenged for it against Ross Minter and got beat. And we had one challenge against Gavin Tate at the Elephant and Castle Coronet, which was an absolutely fantastic atmosphere. Probably, along with Lenny when he fought at the Westcroft against Nieto, probably the best atmosphere I've ever been in.
Really?
Because I can remember it was a tiny venue, and you had to come in from outside, and the place was absolutely jumping. It was absolutely packed. I mean, what a fight the pair of them put on. Close decision, could have gone Chaz's way. Gavin Tate nicked it, and I wouldn't argue with that decision at all.
Ian, let's have it right. At that level, there's some of the best fights going at that Southern Area level, isn't it? You know, it's
without a doubt, because because there's some boys that maybe that's the best they'll do. I mean, as I was going to mention, Tony Milch was great. Tony would lose his concentration and then lose the game plan a little bit, but a great athlete and a great trier. And you look at Tony for the Southern Area against Matt McCarthy, and unfortunately got stopped in the 5th. I think the occasion got to him a little bit, but, you know, only Tony can tell you that. But in saying that, Tony, but people always say to me, and it's something, a conversation Tony and I had, he said, "Oh, but you only said I'd get to the Southern Area." And I went, "No, Tony, what I said to you was, if you win the Southern Area, after that, it becomes political. It becomes who needs you." And going back to Chaz, when Chaz beat Daryl Steele, we had another go at the Southern Area and beat Daryl Steele on points and boxed superbly. Best he ever did his weight, put performance, boxed to orders, deservedly got the win. Within 6 weeks, he's looking to defend against Bradley Skeet. And, you know, great that you box on a big occasion at the XL as it was.
Levels.
But it's a tough fight.
Yeah.
You know, sort of where I'm a bit protective of my lads, I wanted him to enjoy that first. I'm not saying go and get easy defences. If the opportunity comes to earn the money he earned against Bradley Skeet, take it. But it maybe should have been a better gap. And I think Chaz would have benefited from the better gap. But again, it's the bigger boys, the bigger promoters will look at people like Chaz and Tony if he'd have won it, and they think, right, there's a stepping stone there, we'll take him on.
Yep. So just coming on to the current day then, Ian. So I've been reading about the fantastic work you're doing in your community and that with your boxing gym. Any boxing at the minute I should keep my eye on?
I've got a young boy turning over, Harry Smith, who's just we've put his papers in. We're waiting to be interviewed. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a backlog. Very excited about Harry. You know, again, looking possibly realistically could challenge for a Southern Area quite nicely, depending on who it is, what the timing of it is, would possibly win it. I've also started working with Zuhair Al Qatani, who's Saudi Arabia's only professional boxer. Really? And again, I've just done a few sessions with Z at the minute because it's Ramadan, and so he's got a bit, you know, I don't really want him in the gym. He's, you know, you've got to cope with that. It's very difficult. So he's a cracker to work with. He's a tremendous boy, and we're looking forward to getting him out soon.
Brilliant. Well, he could potentially get some following then, couldn't he, from Saudi Arabia? You know, if you know.
Well, he boxed on the Emir Khan undercard out there. He boxed on the Joshua Ruiz fight as well, and he, you know, they got him as a WBC Middle Eastern title. You know, It don't matter
Belt's a
what
belt.
it is. If it's a belt, it's a belt, and have it.
Yeah, I agree. So like I said, there could be some big shows for Z if he keeps his head
Possibly, yeah,
down.
possibly. I mean, but again, he's got his belt. He's created a bit of history, and that's the way I always look at it. It's like I liked when those Masters belts were about. I know people frowned upon them a little bit, but I had Tony Milch won one, and another boy I used to work with, Mario Petrov, he won one. And and I've always said to him, if you get the opportunity, take it, because a belt is a belt, but it's something to show your kids, your grandchildren when you get older. And people say, "Were you any good?" And you can turn around and go, "Well, I won this," and all right. People will go, "Yeah, but it's only a silly little Masters belt," but it's still something. It's still something. It's the same as kids that box as an amateur. They might not be the best, but they still get a trophy every night, and deservedly so.
And Rosehill ABC, then the boxing club, Ian, how difficult has it been over the last year or so with the pandemic? I'd imagine it's been a tough slog. I can see you've done a crowdfunding page, which has helped out, no doubt. But just how difficult has it been?
It's been very tough. I mean, because the problem is I mean, Joe Harley that runs the club is tremendous, and there's lots of other people, Lee, Stevie Cook, that put in a lot of work into the club, and it's been very difficult because our gym is based in the grounds of a leisure centre, so we haven't even got an access to it while the leisure centre isn't open. So we've been completely shut down. It's not like I could have taken the pros in there and worked, because we just couldn't get in the place. So it's been very difficult. I think Lee, who sort of does the paperwork side of the club, I think he's got to deal with the council that they haven't had to pay rent, thankfully, which has helped a great deal. But again, as many people tell you, it's keeping the boys interested. And, whether it's a small club like Rosehill or whether it's a big club like West End, where a mate of mine, Russell Gerrard, works, it's getting the boys back interested. It can be a new lease of life, but it also can be a tough time because of getting people back in.
Brilliant work that you guys do down there, though. Brilliant work. It really.
Listen, I'll do my bit, but the boys who run the amateur club are superb, and they deserve all the credit they get.
Top draw. So just finally, then, moving on to a couple of big bouts, and Ian, what I do when I get people on for these special shows is get a prediction out of them. So you're not going to be able to escape this fella. So here we go, and let's have a go. So first part I'd like to get a prediction out of you is Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. I'm wondering whether your allegiance lies with AJ being from down south, but let's see. So how do you see that fight panning out?
Fury, for me. I think he's so clever, so talented, and can adapt. And I think could possibly stop Joshua late on, but I think he wins clearly on points for me. I think he's terrific. I mean, when Lenny was, with Hennessy, obviously when Tyson was with Hennessy, we was on a couple of undercards of his fights up in Manchester, and Blue Water we did with him, and just to watch him live, to see a bloke as big as that move as well as he moves, I think he's fantastic. I think, like you say, he does stuff he shouldn't do. For a man that size, he does stuff he shouldn't do, and I just think I do think he's great, and I think he's the best heavyweight in the world at the moment by a mile. And I think, unless he has a terrible night against Joshua, I think he wins.
Can you state any case for Joshua? He's got a puncher's chance, if not a little bit more, hasn't there?
Without a doubt. I mean, you can go back to Tyson getting caught by Stevie Cunningham, and AJ's got that chance. I know people say, it's an heavyweight fight and anything can happen, but I think in any fight at any weight, anything can happen anyway. If someone throws a punch at you, if you don't see it, you're going over. He's obviously got a chance. I mean, let's be fair, Joshua's not just the bit part of it. I would go at 60-40 Tyson's favour. I just think as long as Tyson turns up and he's at his best, I don't think Joshua gets near him. If Tyson is below par, I think Joshua could get to him. But I think the whole thing is dependent on how Tyson is going into it.
And I'll tell you what, Ian, I'm really looking forward to the lead up to the fight, because we all know Fury's mind games. He's already talking about drinking 14 Stellas a night or something. Into, you know, where he looks in damn good shape. So he's been doing that, don't he?
It looks great. I mean, there was the little video that no doubt you saw, Carl, where he was working on the pads with a fella standing on the steps, and it was cracking, wasn't it? It was lovely. It weren't in the same space all the time. He moved lovely, terrific.
I do wonder where Fury goes if he wins, though. Does he hang his gloves up? Is there anything else left to prove?
Yeah, what else is there to do? I mean, who's out there coming up that's a really realistic challenger that's going to, you know, when you think at that level, you need someone who's going to make you want to get out of bed in the morning to do your runs. Yeah. And is there anyone there? I mean, there's no point to a third Wilder fight, I don't see for myself.
No.
I don't see where he goes after this. And you know, why not retire at the top? I mean, we was going to do something like that with Lenny. You know, have 2 fights, come back, have 2 fights, have a 6-rounder, challenge the British whoever had it, hopefully win it, and then jacket in a winner.
Yep. That, if he can, that's a way to go out into Ian.
I think so.
If he can. Yep. Carl Froch went out that way, didn't he? You know, Carl Zager. Obviously, being a Nottingham lad, I'm a big Froch fan. He's a warrior.
Listen, he done fantastic. Carl used to be with Lenny, like when they was all in 2002 lot.
Yeah. Good guy, Carl Froch. Good guy. So the last fight then is Canelo versus Billy Joe. Then Ian. So obviously a lot's coming out regarding the build up to this fight, isn't it? What the judges, etc. So what's your take on this fight?
I hope that Billy Joe don't get distracted by that doesn't become. I'm sure it won't. I'm sure they won't let themselves get dragged into it. I mean, you get dragged into it a little bit, I suppose, but I just hope it doesn't distract him from what he's going out there to do. It's a tough one, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I thought Callum Smith, when I say could have done better, that's harsh. That sounds harsh, but I thought his jab would have given Canelo a few problems.
I mean, you're more qualified than I am, but surely the size of Callum Smith, you'd just jab his head off, wouldn't you? If you're good enough, you'd keep.
That's what you hoped for, but didn't do it. I know he had the injury, and whether that hampered him or not, I don't know. I mean, obviously they'll know, but is Billy Joe going to be able to keep Canelo away for that time? I think, you know, it's one of them. The first 6 I first think you make a case for Billy Joe could possibly win every round, but then does he get away? He's got to be. I mean, obviously he's got to be tremendously fit, and he's just got to keep doing what he does. But that's a tough one. I'm gonna go for Canelo, to be truthful. Yeah, but I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah, so would I. I think Canelo might break Billy up a little bit with them body shots.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets to. Oh, look, me too. I mean, listen, miracles happen. I mean, no one gave Hunnigan a chance against Curry, did they, all them years ago? And he did it. And you just, you know, you want to see the Brit go out there and win it. And especially, I mean, what a win that'd be if he got it.
It'll be right up there, Ian, wouldn't it? With the way days.
Got to be, innit? Got to be.
Yeah.
You know, you think Carl against Jermaine Taylor, how he pulled that one round, because that one looked like it was gone, didn't it? That he weren't going to pull that.
I celebrated that one a bit. I can't remember much about it.
Yeah, but you know, but that's why we all do it. That's why we all turn up at the gym every day, hoping that miracle happens.
Yeah, because that launched Carl Froch's career, didn't it? Where would it have gone if he wouldn't have pulled that shot out? You know, it would have been a whole different. That's all about fate, a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, that's someone smiling on you somewhere. But again, you know, you look at Carl. I mean, I talk about Lenny being the most determined man. I get fair play to Carl, because you look at him stylistically. You know, a lot of people would say he's all wrong, but you know, he went and done it. He went and found it, didn't he? Fair play to him.
Yeah, the only fight he struggled with was Andre Ward, wasn't it? But a lot of people struggle with Andre Ward because, again, very elusive.
That's no disgrace, is it?
No.
You know, you know, if the only person you struggle with is Andre Ward, fair play to you.
You've done all right, haven't you? You've done all right. Okay, Ian, I'm conscious it's 30 minutes in, fella. First, I want to thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure, mate.
Secondly, when all this madness is over, I'm going to venture down to London and maybe, if it's okay with you, visit the gym and have a look around, if that's okay with you.
More than welcome. Doors open for you, Carl.
I appreciate that. And thirdly, I've got your call penciled in for when the fights start again. So I'm ashamed to say I've never been to a fight at your call, so that's on me to do.
Yeah, you've got to do it. It's a great venue. It always makes me laugh. Everyone sort of talks about the York Hall, the home of boxing. Backstage, they could do it. It's never been painted in all the times I've been going there, and they could do with doing it up.
I think that's what attracts me to it, though, Ian, if I'm being brutally honest. You know, the nostalgia of the place. I've done the football stadiums for boxing. I've done Bramall Lane. I've done Goodison. I've done the O2, etc., etc. I think it's time I visited that place because I've been told very good things.
You've got to. It's one of them. You step through the doors. I mean, there isn't a bad view in there.
No. And some of the fighters that have fought there down the years, it's well worth the visit, isn't it?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Who was the bloke when I saw him? Who was the man that was crackers? The American guy in the end? Johnny Tapia.
Yeah.
Johnny Tapia. Saw him there.
Yep.
At the York Hall. You know, one of the greats.
Last question for me. Favourite boxer of all time, Ian? Sugar
Ray Leonard.
Yeah, we've had a long-standing debate on our show about half the lads like Aguilar. Well, I'm Sugar Ray, mate, because a bit like you, sweet science.
Yeah.
You know, for me, he's the best ever.
The only time Sugar Ray Leonard disappointed, when I say disappointed me, that's a bit harsh. I think he took a liberty with Donny Lalonde, getting him to defend his light heavyweight title at 12 stone.
Yeah.
That was the only time. But other than that, absolute genius.
Absolute genius. Brilliant. Okay, Ian, again, thank you for your time. I hope this is the first of many. I'll get a couple of other guys on next time as well, and we can have a bit more of a discussion.
Definitely.
I'll keep my promise. I'll come down with the guys, and we can have a chat face to face rather than doing it virtually. But really appreciate your time.